gentlemen, thank you very much, first of all, for joining on a Sunday. And I think all of us are really surviving well, which looks like
Wonderful.
everyone has a good makeup, those who are on phone and
Some business.
laptops and video cameras as well. Just requesting that if people can mute also. Yeah, thank you very much. So first of all, welcome to Jenny and Muthu. So Muthu, I was just wondering that 2 days ago, this National Beer Day was there, and your background is looking that. I don't know how many people have replaced the tea who don't have the tea, tea bags or tea available with a beer. But wonderful to see that. And I was looking at ABNV's Twitter. They were saying that they have done some poll which said that the bottles win as per the cans. And wonderful to see the progress the ABNV is making. And Jenny, you will be really surprised that we had one of the professor of SEEBS who joined us 6 months ago, when we did the mixer, Professor Shami, and we asked him, he wrote a book on Microsoft and accelerators and all. And we asked him that which is the next company he feels after Microsoft would be the most innovative company. And he told Unilever. So we are very, very excited to have both Muthu and Jenny with us today. So without much ado, very, very warm welcome from all the business leaders. We have a very great set of leaders who are joining here today. And over to you, Nishta. We are looking for a wonderful session.
Thank you so much. Welcome, everybody. And it's a great Sunday. Some of you are joining from outside Shanghai and Shanghai. So great to see you. So one thing, before we get started, I introduce Jenny and Muthu. It'll be nice. I was thinking of doing a breakout room, but I changed my mind. Instead of a breakout room icebreaker, let's do a live icebreaker so everybody can read in the chat window. So you just need to type one sentence, and the question is, in the last 7 days of either Shanghai. So if everybody can go on mute, please. Okay. So in the last 7 days of the lockdown, if you're in Shanghai or if you're outside Shanghai, anything else you've been up to in the last 7 days, what are you most proud about having done for anything? What are you most proud about? What are you most happy about in the last 7 days? Just type in the chat window. Great. Is everybody reading everybody's? That's the whole idea.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's nice to firstly know others. It'll be nice for people who are joining in now to please add an alias of your company next to your name. And in the last 7 days, what have you been most proud about or happy about? Oh, Nitin, I love yours. Still not getting mad. Okay.
Yeah, I think I must be proud of that.
Time with family. Cooking has been a highlight for many. Having assistance and sleeping for full 8 hours. Great. So keep typing in. We will also use the opportunity to ask any questions during the session. Feel free to please type your questions. We will definitely take questions in the middle of the session. We'll try to make it as interactive as possible. And we'll also take questions at the end. We welcome any thoughts and questions. So please be on video if you can and raise your questions. So warm welcome to Jenny Wong from Unilever, who's running a new business model venture called Unilever Excubator. She'll share more. And a warm welcome to Muthu, who has been with AB InBev for many years in China and now responsible for their internal new business venture. So welcome to both of you.
Hello, everyone.
So let me start with a simple question for both of you, and in just 30 seconds, if you could answer. Muthu, let's start with you. What made you join, or what made you take up this entrepreneur role in AB InBev?
Yeah, so with fellow friends from especially the Indian community. I hope everybody is staying safe, right? So, but if I look back at the journey and why I was excited about taking this role, right? In my career, I always wanted to do something new and entrepreneurial, right? So in China, actually, after my MBA, my first job was in a startup company. So I worked in a startup company for 2 years myself, but it never took off and it failed in 2 years' time. So then I moved to corporate after that. So I always somehow had this in my gene to do the startup take, right? So when this opportunity came, I had no second thoughts about it, as I also felt it's a good way to set up a legacy in the company, right? So whenever you start up new things, you end up creating legacy and leaving behind something that people can look up to in the future, right? So that's kind of a quick, my take on why I went for this role.
Great, great. Jenny.
Hello, everyone. And thank you, really thank you for inviting me to join this session. And also thank you, Nishta, to give me the reason to do the makeup the first time of this week. So yeah, so my experience is I have over like 12 to 13 years experience in brand marketing. And Unilever is the longest kind of the company I contribute to the longest working years, already around 12 years. And then I spent 2 years to do the incubator. Then currently now I'm leading the excubator. So the journey is more from the traditional marketing role to the more innovative and more like innovation driven kind of role. So my motivation to do this is like, I should say innovation role for me, the definition or the design in terms of the innovation role is designed to be chaos, or designed to have a lot of frustration and excitement, really like roller coaster mode. So maybe I can, my personality is really, I want to embrace the challenge. I enjoy to handling the different dots and connect them into line. So that's why I quit the traditional kind of marketing role and moved to this kind of nobody will know how to run this kind of new organizations role. Yeah.
So a common theme emerging. It's a lot to do with personality traits as well, and having that, I guess, courage to navigate through the unknowns and the chaos. Great.
Yeah.
So today's topic, everybody, is 0 to 1. You know, everybody, no matter you're an entrepreneur on the call, you might be somebody coming from education background, automobile, pharma, digital transformation. Everybody has the opportunity in a large corporate or your own setup to introduce a new business model, a new service model. So there is always a need and a path to drive 0 to 1. But what it takes to drive 0 to 1 has a certain different mindset or capabilities. So setting up new ventures, both Muthu and Jenny have amazing learnings. We've identified 5 of them. We were supposed to have the 6th one, but we decided that the 6th one can come from the audience, or perhaps more from all of you. So let's start with Jenny. Jenny, if you'd like to share your screen, let's get started. And everybody on the call, the format is that Jenny will take about 7 to 8 minutes to share. And you can post your questions while she's speaking, if something comes to your mind, and then we'll discuss that after the session. And then Muthu will take turn.
Can you see my screen, Nishita?
Yes, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to start. Okay, so my session will be make it like more sharp. So I will separate into two parts. The first is introduce what is Uni Exubator, what is the new organization trying to set up in the big organization of Unilever. The second part is I will share several key learnings. I prepare 3 learnings, and then I think we can share more thoughts about that. So the key strategy of Unilever Exubator in pilot in China now, it's not roll to global. So the key strategy, the vision is to create the M&A pipeline and also to incubate the new capabilities of future Unilever it shall have, especially for the new brands, especially for the new Chinese brands. So we started the journey from 2022 March, and we run 1 year as a pilot stage. We choose 10 startups. They are all brand startups, mainly focused in beauty and personal care. And the key model is we try to selectively open the Unilever's resources, capabilities. For example, we even try to already open the formulation, some of the formulation as an IP to license to some startup. So we try very hard to open the most like tangible and also can be applied to the business, like directly applied to those startup business. And also we run it to try to set up as an ecosystem. Not only Unilever will open the resources, we also invite our partner to open their resources and to incubate, even to facilitate the startup business to grow quick. And why we run this? I think I already put two sentences on that. First is to increase the odds of success for growth, especially we see the Chinese startup, they really rises. And also because when I work in the traditional role, sometimes like over the night, we will find very one kind of Chinese brands, there's really market share grow quick and even have threatened the bigger brands. So we really feel, especially China startup brands, aggressively challenge the big brands. And the second thing is also because I have the experience in running in the startup, the incubator. But no matter how we try hard, the speed, the aggressiveness of the external team is still cannot, comparatively speaking, we're not that comparable with them. So when we're looking back to the past 3 years, Unilever China, I should say, didn't incubate very successful new brands. And the lifespan, most of the new brands' lifespan is less than 3 years. So, and then that's why we want to really try a new model. Don't run team inside, but we go outside to partner with the external startup, to partner with the external team to incubate some new brands in a more innovative partnership model. And the second thing is some of the capability Unilever has is a big corporate capability, but we really think we can identify and then build the new capability and also the resources, even the new partner, which can benefit back to the parent company's portfolio and benefit back to the parent company's core brands and further to fill unmet needs of the consumer. So give you an example, this is one of our startup brand called Guan Er Ge. So Guan Er Ge is a very famous Chinese like ancient character. It's a kind of hero. It's kind of very like strong fighter. So they use this as the name and even as their like iconic celebrity. So it is a male grooming brand for Generation Z. And it is on board in Uni Exubator platform 2020 June. And previously the GMV is only around 1 million euro. And currently after 2 years, with the contribution of Uni Exubator, we help them to grow the GMV together to 7.22 million. And also during the whole model I will introduce later, is we also have 5% like share. Why we say free share? Because we exchange our sweat equity with this startup. So our contribution will mainly focus on, we will try to do some co-branding resources for this brand. So we co-brand this brand with Philips China. And we will also like open our lab and even our mature formulation for them to shorten the innovation speed. And we will also use Unilever's kind of sales network to help them to expand the channel. And the last but not least, we'll also help them to raise the fund. So how we do this? We also interview a lot of kind of different big corporates, how they run the similar, they also have the organization called like Open Innovation Center or some incubator. So every year they only can choose to touch base the high quality of 10 startup or maximum like 20 startup. But for us, because we want to create the scale, we really want to fish the best fish in the ponds. So that's why we decided the model we will run it as a platform. So we definitely use a lot of digitization tools we set up a digital kind of working desk and also try to use some online way, open the resources digitally to those startups. So every year our ambition is to partnership with 100 brands, even 200 startup brands on our platform. So we set up like try to standardize all the resources, what resources we open to them and how they can get access to those services or those partnership projects. And by the end, our ambition is after 5 years to 7 years, we will like use M&A, help our M&A team to merge and acquire at least 7 brands on our platform. So compared to those very mature M&A case, we also see some of the downsides of those cases after they acquire to the Unilever because they only use the financial angle to buy out those brands. But for us, we want to date with the brands when they're young. Then we really like help each other during the journey, and finally we can get married. So this is also another experimental journey or like experiment we are trying to do. So this is the partnership. We set up into 3 levels. So level 1, we set it as a membership model. So each of the startup, we call them, they are Uni-Excavators member. So we standardize the resources kit when they log onto our platform. So, and then among those members, we will select based on our criteria, mainly for the complementary business portfolio and also the potential of the team. The team is very, very important. We will select 50% of our membership to run the projects, the tailor-made projects. So level 1 mainly leverage the digital kind of services, and the level 2, which is more like a tailor-made one-on-one human resources kind of experts program to do the project with them. So we co-create a formulation. We even do the channel expansion. We run the brand positioning kind of different projects, and even we are even doing some of the AI projects with them. And the last but not least, the level 3 is we will further screen out the best of the best, the most potential thing, use warrant or even partly combine with some of the cash, some of the sweating equity to exchange the shares. Currently, in the past 2 years, we already have like 12 startups. We already have investment in terms of the share.
Jenny.
Okay, so that's about Uni-Excavator. Yes.
Maybe take a pause here because this is a great
Okay.
overview of what is Excubator. You know, people are very familiar, including myself. Until 6 months ago, we are very familiar with incubator as a model, right? Excubator is something new and you've shared. If anybody has a question, you can just raise your hand and ask as well. If any question on the overview of what is an excubator model of Unilever before we get into learnings. Okay.
Nishta, may I ask if there is no other question?
Sure, sure.
Yeah. Jenny, how you are scouting these startups? Is there any parameter to scout the startups?
The way the approach is to scouting have 3 main channels. The first one is we have an individual team. So I work with some freelancer, individual persons to do some of the scouting. So I will give them the brief, what kind of team, what kind of area category, and even the stage we want to look for. So this is what I pay them. So this is my kind of paid traffic. And then we also have some of the organic traffic, which is we quarterly will run the challenge test. I call it like a demo day. So we partnership with different kind of channel partner, like Watsons, like Tmall, like TikTok. We run different theme of the challenge test to gain the organic traffic, let them know there's an organization called Uniactivator and you can sign for this kind of platform. We will empower you some of the resources. And the last but not least is we run 2 years. So there are some of the word of mouth recommendation from our friends, from the colleagues. And also we set up our social media channel, which is the WeChat official account. Currently, we have 10,000 followers. Most of them are the VC partner and also some of the industry big potatoes. So they will also recommend some of the good projects to us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mukesh. So Jenny, given if you only had 5 minutes to now talk, we'll have more time after that, but 5 minutes to kind of capture your biggest learnings having run this as the in-house founder.
Yeah, okay. So the learning one, I have 3 learnings. So the learning one is I really think when you run a very new innovation kind of organization, or I should say an entity in a big company, I treat it as a relationship of parents and kids. And this is very different from running a startup, the relationship between the founder and the VC partner, because parents and kids, they have the blood kind of relationship. But the founder and the VC kind of investor, they don't have the kind of this kind of very intimacy kind of thing. So, but don't treat as a kids. Sometimes we have some of the rebellious period, but don't forget the most important learning is each of the parents when during the relationship with the kids, I think because they are running a business, so you need to think about what you can take from them and what you can get back to them, especially when you're at the 0 stage. As a kid, at very small, helpless stage, you need to choose. You need to very clear about what you want to take from the family, from the parents' company. Most likely is from the DNA of the company because you are under that big organization. But the next stage is in the 1 stage, what kind of thing you will need to give back to it. So I sometimes make a joke is like, I have a 6-year-old kids. Maybe I'm a Chinese parent. So every time I will collect the bills of my kids, I don't want to say in when she is grow up, she really wants to pay back me, but I want to see the ROI. I want to see the investment value. So it's another kind of analogy to see the parents and kids. So this is the first thing. The second thing is under this kind of relationship management, I think it's the process where you run a kind of new organization. It's a process to evolve your family DNA from good to better. Even you will run kind of a different business of it, but definitely I think the kids, the future business will inherit it with the good skills. For example, Uniactivator, when I run this, I inherit some of the good kind of capability of Unilever, but I will make it more young, more open, more like a boundless kind of open innovation platform. So this is a second thing under this parents and kids. And the last but not least is conflicts should also be normal, but how to define the principle when you have the conflicts and also bearing the trust, because parents and kids, I think the trust is in the blood. So during the session, during the whole journey, to kind of align the principle, I will talk about the learning 3 is about what is the principle. I'm aligning with our parent company. So this is the first learning, I think, to share with everyone.
Thank you so much, Jenny. So
Yeah.
our plan for today's session is hopefully we'll make it interactive. So at every learning, we can pause and hear any comments or any reference you have to something similar, if anybody wants to speak to this. And in the meanwhile, Jenny, there is a question from Tuhin in the chat window. I'll read for you and if you can answer. Is Xcubator platform only for China or is it also for India? And the
Currently, it's only for China. Yeah.
Okay. And do you also support very small startups without major funds, but local reach, very good reach?
Sorry, again? Can you repeat that question?
You also support very small
Mm.
startups without major funds, but very good local reach.
Yeah, yeah. I think we have several kind of scouting criteria. The first is it should be focused, the business they're running should be related to beauty and personal care category, because the whole project is sponsored by the global BPC, we call beauty personal care categories leader, top leaders. And then we don't care, we will not say we will reject the very early stage kind of startup. We really want to reach those startup, no matter big or small, or even major funds or don't have funds. And we will have some way to detect the potential, mostly about the people, the team running this kind of startup. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much. Thank you, Tuhin. Let's continue.
Okay. So the second learning is about people. You see, this is a platform. And also when you run a new, very, very, very new kind of creator or things, then it only depends on the leaders is not that capable. And also I should say, we need to collect the different thoughts from different people. So that's the learning too, is as an internal venture, like leader, you need to team up using a very innovative way, like we call it like a distributed talent network. And also because you will find when you're running this very big ship, more capability or even more new capability required. But the other thing is we will face like, as in a big organization, for innovation team, we don't have the luxury to have very big team. So how we are going to run it? So in my case, my learning is try to find a kind of balanced way in terms of the team up your whole team. So I will share with you how we running this team. So basically we have full-time, the whole team, the full-time persons will only be like 10 people. I call it the middle office, the capability hubs. So for these full-time Unilever employees, we more like productizing the new services. We are more like a strategy owner, and also to incubate different kind of services, put it on that platform. And then we also find the different partners by using different ways to team up my even more bigger team. So the front office, we use an agency to partner. So this agency help us to recruit all the startup members and also to handle those kind of membership management, because each of the startup, they will have 6 to 12 months of the membership. So they help us to maintain. They're more like our front office, our account team. So they are an agency. And the back office is, I have, in Unilever, we Activator run a very interesting way to, with different cross-function talents, it's called a flexible hiring. So if I have a project with the startup, then I can promote a kind of post in our internal website to the cross-functional talents. Then like a consulting firm model. So different talents, they will sign for this projects. And after 3 months, after this team up, after 3 months, the team will be off. So this more like a flexible hiring internal in Unilever. And also I partnership with a lot of freelancers, individual experts by using our social network to building our capability. Even I treat the people, like even I work with different big corporates as a partner, like Philips China, like Watson's, even their people can also be one part of our team. So you can use different angles to team up the people, the capability who you need. No, not only exclusively to hire the full-time people in your team. You need to balance the fixed cost and the variable cost. Yeah, so this is the second thing I think I will also share with you. And by the way, I think people, when you find those people, you also need to find their motivation, because you need to put people first. They're not your employee. Because even for some of the flexible hiring, the freelancer, they are not direct report to me. So how you can get their true motivation and get your influence use your story to influence them, so they can self-manage themselves, not as even like parents and kids, I need to teach him, educate him, so he will find his own motivation. You need to have a very win-win kind of solution model or motivation to run this new organization, especially at the 0 stage, because at zero stage, you don't have big budget. And last but not least is the incentive model is also very important. So even in my full-time team, they are the promotion kind of mechanism, the bonus incentive mechanism, they're very different from the internal Unilever persons. So I work with HR team to redesign their incentive scheme. Yeah, so these are several things to share with you about the people. This is the second learning.
Thank you, Jenny. That's very interesting. What is their motivation? We have a question from Kripa. Kripa, do you want to just share your question by yourself?
Yeah, Jenny, thanks.
Hello.
Rita. And hi, Jenny. I just wanted to know, you just informed about your present working and this platform in China, which you are doing, and it's a great initiative to involve all these startups within China. But your solution is not only limited to China. I think you are making it global, right? Your solution to your parent company is for global market. Then why don't you think that your current study is only limited to the China market and their requirement, which you want to implement globally? So how confident you are that whatever the solution you are bringing, it is going to work globally?
First of all, I think for my key job to be done is we want to acquire the China brand. So this is very, very important key job to be done for me. So that's why I make it like very China focused at current stage. So I need to like complete this achievement. And then the second priority is I will accumulate the experience and some of the model, not exactly this organization, to carry over to the global market. So I think that based on this model, some operation model, like we run it as a platform, and also we try to open, productize several services which Unilever core company we can have to open outside. This kind of model still apply for the global market. And the second thing is, I think this the go to the global, go from China and go to the global, I think is most important, very important to the China brand, because that's the key benefits of Unilever can help those China brand. So currently we're already in the phase 2 is we are not only help the China brand grow well in China, but also leveraging the Unilever global resources to help them can even go overseas, go beyond China to grow their business in the global. So my anchor is still the China brand, because when we're looking back like to 5 years or even 10 years, Unilever Global, we never buy one China brand, but we do see the opportunity to find a potential one and also to make it into Unilever, a big company is already, the timing is here. So yeah, so that's the answer I would like to share with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jenny. Let's move on and capture the third learning.
Can I,
Okay.
Nishta, can I ask one question?
Sure.
Sridhar this side. Hi, sorry. So Jenny, this is very, very interesting as a model, very innovative as well. One question I had was about this particular second learning, where you said that you'll be leveraging internal teams from different capabilities, right? I think in Chinese, I don't know the Unilever culture in China, but typically in a Chinese organization, the Laoban commands a lot of control. And you said that you convinced HR to make specific incentive policies to motivate this talent to join this excubator. How do these respective functional heads or department heads take it? How easy it is to bring good internal talent and not like average talent to contribute to your excubator? Has it led to a lot of internal conflicts? Have people who have joined this excubator later resigned prematurely as a result of such conflicts or conflicts with their bosses? You don't need to answer if any of that is sensitive, but I was just curious to know the way the Chinese companies work. So.
Okay, very good question. Is the first is I should thank for the Unilever China culture, especially the HR team try to set up this flexible hiring, which is approved by all the functional VPs and even China chairman. So this has already become a culture. But and the second thing is I think the passion, the first trial things is very easy, but it's very difficult. It's still kind of we are trying to find a way to keep the sustainability of this flexible hiring platform. The first time we can burn them kind of passion things, but the second time, if we still have the similar project and what kind of those already how we can keep the repeat and even we can drive the frequency, still output in terms of the output can be good. And you are also good is we also are facing some of the challenges is their direct report. We still need to get the approval from the direct report. So for some of the candidates, they really want to join the projects, but their line manager reject. I think it's normal, but we will still, after that, they will kind of become our potential flexible hiring targets. So we will put them all into a online kind of WeChat group. So we are also using the different way to activate the community. We set up lots of different community internally in Unilever. Sometimes in terms of the different dimensions, we set up the capability community with different functions to keep feeding them, like what kind of activator we're running, the key purpose, the projects, the diversity of the projects will help them to grow their capability for the different functions. And also we are set up, we call it a pioneer, innovator pioneer group. So we are trying to sourcing, even after each of the projects, I will review with my team is, we will put different tags behind those young talents. Most of them are young talents. For the senior managers, they don't have the passion or even time to do that. So we will review, I will review with my team to cluster the different types of the talents in our flexible hiring bank. And the last but not least, I can also share with you the potential of after they join in Uni Extubators projects. I already figured that like 10% of them is going to resign and find more exciting jobs externally. That is true. I don't think it's sensitive topics, but the question I will give back to our HR team is how Unilever traditional role can can give them the excitement and even give them the potential career growth sense. So I think so for Extubator, another our kind of I find the core value of the Extubator is also how to reactivate the innovation culture and also the people side. And we will become a feedback kind of channel to our HR team as well to make the whole system become more balanced and become more like drive it more like positive direction.
Thank you, Sridhar, for a great question. Yeah, that was a very, very good question. Always caught between those challenges. So Jenny, just a quick check-in with everybody on the time. Though we have 5 to 6 p.m., it'll be amazing if we can stick around till 6:10 p.m. It's in your interest, hopefully, and then we'll give due justice to close the session on a high note with a Q&A. So Jenny, if you can wind up in 2 minutes, so we move on to Muthu.
Yeah, sure. The last learning is about, I think, especially at the 0 stage, freedom, empowerment is very important for this organization. And just like you cannot have too many chefs in the kitchen. So that's the same. So the leader, the exclusive, the one leader need to drive the boat and have their decision and also have their own principle. But at that time, because you are working in a big company, then a lot of bosses in different cross function. Because for my cases, every month I will run a China leadership team and also put 2 global leaders into that kind, we call it Extubator board, to do the monthly update. So how can I don't have lots of noises to bother my thinking about running this? I think it's very important is we need to align the principle, the strict big principle with those leaders. And then for the rest of the thing, leave ask them. This is also one of another principle is leave more spaces to the team. So there's not an exactly formula. So I really suggest to have aligned the strict principles, especially at the beginning of the new venture. So maybe the business will be different, but the dimension I think should be the same. The first is the risk management. This is the top thing you need to align with them. So for Asubeta, because we run a lot of different, even some of the model is very crazy. So for example, we do the formulation license. We have lots of commission model with different startup. So I have written kind of 2 or 3 papers of the contingency plan, which is more about how PR team to work together. So first thing I think is coming from the risk management, because they are not, for those top management team, I think they are not founder. They are still employee to working for this company. So you need to let them know the bottom line, we will not touch it. The second part is the financial payback timeline. So for the Asubeta from the day one, I clearly know that we cannot only become the cost center. So I set up very clear financial payback timeline, 3 year, 5 year, 7 year, to let them know what is the break-even point, even what is the profitable point, to share them the whole business case. So business case is very important, because then they will know what kind of money they can be invested and when I can pay back in some of the period. So this is the second thing. So run the venture, but run the innovation center is really as a real business is very important. And the last but not least is I put it as an ecosystem engagement because it's related to Asubeta. We set a business model is a platform. So I had very clear KPI or OKR on the number of startup we will engage and do the projects. But I think for the other kind of businesses, the third point is the business model differentiation. So this differentiation part will become your very strong, you need to align the KPI with the your management team, your stakeholder as one of the principle. So these are several dimensions about those stricter principle. The bottom line cannot change. But rest of the thing, I think the top management team, the parent company need to give the freedom and the fully empowerment for the startup team. For the innovation team. I call it startup team because we really run it as a startup, as a venture. Yeah, so this is the third learning.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Time is never enough. In such sessions, probably we need more time. And once I was about to say borders, I'm sorry. When the lockdown is lifted, I guess in our mind, we're all wishing for borders to open. So when the lockdown is lifted and we have physical session, we'd love to have you again. Or in case some of the corporates here want to have sessions with Jenny, because she also runs some training and other models, I'm happy to connect you to her. You can write to me. So for now, let's move on to Muthu. And the same goes for Muthu's session. If you have questions, please ask. Let's make the most of the next 30 minutes. So Muthu, I hand over to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nishita. A lot of interesting learnings from Jenny, right? So actually, when I'm going to share my learnings, you will probably see a lot of resonance to similar themes because big companies typically act in a similar manner, right? So let me just start with a quick introduction of what is Beyond Beer, right? Because many people don't understand this very well, right? So try to explain this. So for people who don't know, AB InBev is the world's largest beer company, right? So on the left-hand side, the brands of beer that you see, probably you might know, right? So Budweiser, Corona, Stella, Hoegaarden, and many more in our portfolio. So we market and we make these beer brands. So we are one of the largest companies in FMCG who play only in one category, right? So because if you look at a Unilever or a P&G or Coke or any company, they play in multi-category. But AB InBev is a unique one which plays in only one category, and we play only in beer category, and we are a world leader in beer. But what has been happening recently is we've been coming up with our strategy to go outside of beer, right? So And what does outside of beer mean? And this is what we call as beyond beer within our company, right? So what does outside of beer mean? Basically, you can understand is like something similar to like RTD alcoholic drinks, right? And energy drinks or a spirits product, right? So I just put some examples of typical products from the market just for you to have an idea of what we mean by when we call beyond beer, right? So, but the simple objective is we are a single category company, but from the single category focus, we want to go into multi-categories, right? And today, when we expand into any of these other categories, we don't have a portfolio, we don't have a brand to expand, right? So we need to start from a clean slate. And why do we try to do this, right? Because the first thing is we believe that we have to go where the growth is, because globally and even in countries like China, we see like beer is stagnating in volume growth, and consumers are going to the other categories outside of beer, right? So as it's just normal as consumers want to play with different brands, they want to do the experimentation, so they want to experience other categories outside of beer, right? The second one is category expansion. So makes sense for us as a company from one category focus to expand to multiple categories, right? And the third one is we believe there are a lot of strengths or core competencies of ABI that we can leverage to win in other categories, right? So what I will share today with you guys, with the whole team here is just to my learnings in setting up this Beyond Beer organization with an ABI, what we have been doing and what we have been learning in this journey, right? But before we set up, before I go into my learnings, right, I think one thing that I wanted to bring here for the team to reflect upon, right? So what like Unilever is trying or what ABI is trying is not a new thing, right? So big companies typically create new sources of growth successfully, right? So I just brought two examples, right? So if you think about this first example, Facebook, right? So actually, in 2012, Facebook acquired Instagram, so for $1 billion. And at the time when Facebook acquired Instagram, Instagram had 30 million users and a zero revenue, right? I don't know how many people knew that, right? But then today, if you look at it in 2021, actually Instagram has more than 1 billion users and has $20 billion in net revenue. And 70% of the growth of the total Facebook company actually comes from Instagram, right? So if you think about it, that means that this didn't exist 8 years ago. So if Facebook did not buy Instagram or did not buy Instagram, they would not be growing today, right? And then another example is Amazon, right? So Amazon Web Services, right? So we all know Amazon as a company, started as a book company, as a retailer, right? But then if you think about it, in 2021, Amazon Web Services had a $70 billion net revenue, right? And then more than 50% of the company's operating profit came from Amazon Web Services. So if you look at these two themes, one thing is very clear is big companies always create new sources of growth. And over a period of time, these new sources of growth become the biggest sources of growth, right? But however, to do that is not random, it's typically planned, right? So, and more the companies are realizing how to do this in a successful manner, right? Because for example, if I'm a Facebook and I buy Instagram, I'm sure when I buy Instagram, every dollar I invest on Instagram is going to pay me back less compared to the money I invest on Facebook, because Facebook already has the scale, can already break even, has a better ROI. But how do I cultivate this new source of growth, right? So that's kind of the big question that all the big corporates are facing today, right? And this is important to every entrepreneur. So I tried to codify this in a simple manner in terms of how I believe big companies are figuring out the differences, right? So in my opinion, there are two different stages in a company, right? So there is what we say the 0 to 1 stage, right? Which is what Jenny is referring to and I am referring to. I call them as new to big, right? So there is something new that we are creating and trying to get to a big, right, scale. Typically, it's very less certain. There are a lot of failures. It's about the new growth and it's about building the future, right? But if you think about it, there is another part of the company that most of you are very aware of is what I call the 1 to 100, right? And then if you think about the 1 to 100, it's really about repeatability. There is something that's working and the company is trying to repeat it, right? So the company is trying to repeat it to gain scale, economies of scale. It's really about financial discipline. It's really about operational excellence, right? So if you look at these two kind of business stages, the 0 to 1 or 1 to 100, actually they have totally different challenges and they have totally different needs, totally different mindset of people. So what I'm going to talk to you today is more about this 0 to 1, because today in ABI, the Beyond Beer is basically in this 0 to 1 stage. As we are going through this category expansion, we are trying to create this new to big, and what are my learnings over here, right? So that's just to set a context of what is Beyond Beer and how do I kind of codify these learnings to share with you all. Okay.
Thank you, Muthu.
So just pausing here to see if there are any questions, any comments. Yeah. Again, I don't have a magic answer to everything, right? These are some of the learnings that I had, right? So very, very happy to hear from the other business leaders here. What are your experiences in kind of this ones as we go along?
Absolutely. If anybody wants to take a pause here and ask anything about Beyond Beer before Muthu shares the learnings, feel free. Or if anybody wants to share your own 0 to 1 setup in your organization and any experience. Okay, we need to really get everybody into a physical session very soon. Okay, let's continue, Muthu.
Let's keep going, right? So I try to codify this as two learnings, right? So first one is what I call an operating system, right? So I try to bring an analogy here, right? So everybody knows like an operating system, like a Windows or a Mac or a Linux or whatever, Android, right? So operating system is what defines how the different things work on a particular platform, right? So if you have a Mac OS versus a Windows, the way that you operate your computer is totally different, right? So what I define as the first learning is you need to create a new operating system versus a standard operating system in a 0 to 1, right? And this is very, very important, because if you take the operating system that is used to run a big company, that is not going to be sufficient to run a 0 to 1 business, right? So this is the first important learning, or the key takeaway for me is the operating system or the fundamentals of the setup should be very different. So I try to bring an example here, right? So let's just imagine, right? So there is what we call the standard operating system, which is what the big companies are used to operating. And on the right-hand side is what I call the Beyond Beer or the new venture operating systems, right? So like a 0 to 1 operating system. So here I try to bring like two cases, right? Two examples, right? So let's think about a KPI. So let's say in a big company, what are your typical KPIs that you guys measure against? Financial KPIs or metrics that you're measured against? Any takers for it? And how is your compensation model usually in a big organization? Let's see if there are any brave souls to take it.
Muthu, you can read the chat window. Suresh, do you want to say? You can actually speak.
Yeah, so Suresh is in the right direction, right? So it's kind of EBIT driven, right? So which is very true, right? So big companies, typically they are looking at
Sorry, if
net
you could explain, sorry, for the audience, could you explain? Some might not know EBIT.
Yeah, so EBIT is basically net profits, right? So if you look at it, so if I think about a KPI, if you're a big company, you're looking at how much revenue you're making, what's your profit margin or EBIT, like what Suresh mentioned, right? And growth, right? So are you growing at the rate that you're promised? But then if you're thinking about a new business or a 0 to 1 business, I'm not looking at net revenue, because I don't have businesses that are scaling up like a big business, right? But what you're really looking at is stickiness, right? So the product or the brand that you're developing, is it sticky enough? Do the consumers like it, right? So you're looking at trial rates to see if you introduce this product to 10 people, how many people are going to try it, right? And then if 10 people try it, how many people are going to repeat it? So the metric is actually very different. So that means that for my business unit, if they are going to use the same metric of a net revenue or EBIT, I will not be successful, right? So I need to change the management mindset to use a different metric to be able to measure success, right? I think that's the first important thing for just as an example, right? So between a standard operating system and what I call as a new operating system, right? And the second one is compensation, right? So in a big company, typically compensation is always, you have a fixed salary and an annual bonus, right? So the annual bonus is based on certain KPIs. But then when you're probably creating a new venture, you need to go for a different compensation system, which is kind of what Jenny also mentioned, right? So today, for example, in our new venture operating system, our compensation is basic salary with long-term payouts. So you don't expect an annual bonus because your venture is not going to be successful in 1 year. It may take 3 years, 5 years, 7 years for the venture to be successful. So you are looking for longer-term payouts. So this is kind of what I say as a new operating system that you need to develop. Here, I just mentioned a couple of things.
What?
But if you think about it, you can apply this to anything, right? So let me pause here. Looks like there is going to be some questions.
Yeah, Rahul has someone.
Hey, Muthu.
Yeah.
Quick one. I mean, I can understand in the initial period, we're switching the metrics to repeat and stickiness trial. Like, how do you define the threshold on how long we stick with this KPI before we move back to the EBIT and net margin?
Yeah, but very good question, Rahul, right? So actually what we developed is an internal model that we call as 4 stages of innovation, right? So what we call a seed, launch, grow, and scale, right? And in each of the 4 stages, we have clear metrics of KPIs to measure and the threshold of when to switch. So just as an example, right? So a seed is what we say is like an incubator or an excavator, where your idea is to just measure if the concept or the product has a stickiness in the market. So the KPI is net revenue is 0. What you're measuring is repeat or trial, okay? And then if that meets the thresholds and the KPI is turned green, then you move from seed to launch, right? In launch, what you do is we distribute it to X number of stores, right? So like say 1,000 stores, and you're expected to make a net revenue at a certain rate of sale. So for anybody who doesn't understand rate of sale is, if you put the product in a particular store, how many bottles will it sell in 1 month, right? So then you meet that metric, great. So then you fix it and then you move to the next stage. So we kind of clearly map this threshold. And then just one number that we always use is till the brand or the product doesn't reach $50 million in our company, because we are, of course, a company of a bigger size, right? Till we don't reach $50 million, we don't look at the profit, EBITDA, right? So we just look at only net revenue and growth. After it reaches $50 million, then we optimize for the bottom line.
That's wonderful sharing, Muthu. There's Nitesh who also has a question.
Yeah,
Nitesh, please go.
thank you, Nishita. Muthu, thank you, first of all. 2 questions, right? I am running out of beer, so wondering if you do home delivery. That's one. Note, on the serious note, when you think about stickiness, right, in a consumer product that is a short purchase cycle, right, a beer or a toothpaste, right, it's sort of easier to think about stickiness because you're gonna either see that consumer back or not, right? That's stickiness. What do you do? How do you think about this if the purchase cycle is inherently longer? For example, a car may be a bad example, but a car, right? People don't go buy a car every year, or an electronics like an iPad. I don't go buy an iPad every 6 months. So how do I think about, in products where the purchase cycle is a little bit longer?
Yeah. Good question, Nitesh, right? So for the first one, yes, there are some initiatives that we are taking to deliver beer at home. I'll be happy to send that QR code right on the IA
Perfect,
group, right?
thank you.
Enjoy good beer, number one. For the second one, right? So again, the concept is about stickiness, but it can be interpreted, in my opinion, differently to different categories, right? So in the categories that you mentioned, one of the common metrics that I always see people use is called a net promoter score. So what does it mean, right? So what it means is how many people would promote your product compared to detracting against your product, right? Again, so it's kind of a proxy metric of stickiness to say your happiness or your satisfaction with the product, right? So that means that if you're going to be having a good experience with the product, you turn to be a net promoter of the product, then you're going to give a positive word of mouth to your friends in the social media and everything, which is going to influence the other buyers to buy the product, right? So it's a similar concept, but a different metric, right? So a typical way to measure a net promoter score is you just give a 1 to 10 rating scale and ask, okay, would you, and the number 10 is I like or promote the product. Number 1 is like I hate or I will not promote the product, you know. And then you just see how many people rate 9 and 10 and subtract the rest. And then there are global benchmarks or national benchmarks that you can compare against to see how your product rates. And this is kind of an industry standard metric a lot of people use.
Thank you. Makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the great questions and inputs, Muthu. Let's continue.
Yes. So then quickly go to the second one, right? So kind of a little bit similar to what Jenny mentioned, right? So here, actually, the fact is for every Instagram that worked, there are 100 that didn't work, right? So we see the success case, but we sometimes don't see the failure case, right? But what does it mean to be a business leader or an entrepreneur, right? So first one is, for me, what it means is I need to build a portfolio of choices. Because to be honest, I don't know which one is going to win, right? Because different teams have different capabilities. They are betting on different trends. They are betting on different solutions. And you don't know which solution is going to be successful, right? And there is always a mixture of different things, right? So the first important thing that you need to do is always build a portfolio of choices, right? So like, for example, Jenny mentioned they're working with 100 startups. So today in my Beyond Beer, even though we are only 2-year-old organization, we are at this stage have developed more than 20 different brands, right? Because you don't know which one is going to be successful. And then you need to give a right amount of resources for everybody. And when the success is visible through certain KPIs, then you need to over-invest in them, right? So the first one is to make sure you have your choices, right? That's very important. And the second learning for me is you need to look at different ways to do it, right? So all of us are very familiar with the internal way, which is also something that we do, right? So in my team, I have an incubator team. I have a dedicated sales and marketing team, because this is something that all of us are very used to doing in corporates is, oh, you have a problem, you fold your sleeves and get to the solution, right? You know, you try to do everything by yourself. And because we are very confident of our skill set, we are very confident of our capabilities, so we want to do it. But the reality is there is a big external world, right? So in terms of using a venture capital mindset. So similar to what Jenny was mentioning, today within Beyond Beer, we do the internal approach where my teams run our own projects. But I also manage a venture capital fund where we invest in external startups in China, right? So we invest in external startups and pick products or brands which we believe could make a difference in the future for our category, right? So this is also, again, a very different mindset, because corporates are not used to going external because they believe they are the best in doing things, right? But what is happening more and more we see is this openness from corporates to go external, right? And then if you look at the example that I gave before, think about Instagram was an external bet that Facebook took, but Amazon Web Services was an internal bet. So you don't know where the success or the growth can come from. You just need to hedge your bets, and you need to make sure that you have your portfolio of choices and you have different ways to do it. And just one last slide, right? So because everybody's curious, oh, what's Beyond Beer?
Muthu,
yeah.
Sorry, on that slide, we have a great question from Fanny. Do you want to say, Fanny?
Sure.
Thank
you. Okay.
Yeah. Muthu, I have been following you, and I see the first question, what you said was about Amazon or this thing. That is very clear. It's a visionary where they have bought it and they have been successful. But if I'm going on introducing products, because every company would have planned an initiative that over a period of say 5 years, 6 years, I would go on this way, this product, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But considering the gestation period in each of the product, and maybe companies today are looking at a quarter-to-quarter earning. So definitely there's a tremendous pressure on the corporate. So how long do you think this can be continued to know whether the product is successful or it can be discarded in between, or how do you measure that basically?
Yeah, very good question, Fanny, right? So for me, to be honest, this answer depends on two things, right? So first one is the industry and the second one is the company need or the mindset, right? So why I say that is, for example, if you take like SpaceX, right? This kind of space technology companies are where where it's more founder driven or family driven, where they are not looking at a quarter on quarter. They are okay to give a longer gestation period, right? So it's very different, right? So they are okay to create a product, seed it, and wait for 5 years before it matures, right? Before it comes to success, right? But then let me give you a situation of my company, right? So my company is in the FMCG field, where it is very fast moving consumer goods sector, right? And second one is also a publicly listed company, where you're saying exactly what you're saying is, you know, every quarter we have the pressure of the results, right? So in our company, what we do is we give a product 9 months, right? So it's 9 months from the product hitting the market in the seed stage to show the first set of KPIs. And within 9 months, if the first set of KPIs are not met, the product needs to be killed. There is no argument, right? So we have 5 KPIs that we measure for the first 9 months. And if they are not met, by default, they are killed unless and until there is an argument in favor of it, right? So that's how we measure and manage. Of course, there is pros and cons of it, but at least what is fair in this way of operation is it's clear to the team that we are not here to gestate or build a product which is going to be successful 5 years later, right? So you give a clear guidance to the team. You have 9 months to build a product, right? That is going to work in the market, or within 9 months, the product should start working in the market. The second one is the KPIs are transparent and the same set of KPIs always that we measure.
Okay, because when you take something like a fintech, which I think the gestation is very short nowadays.
Yes.
The moment you get one product into the market, there's somebody, a competitor coming with this competitive product.
They would copy it
So,
immediately. Yeah.
Yeah,
So that's why
whether it copy or innovate, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But there is a competition is so high, and the lifespan of that product is also short. You need to make money. Like today in a movie, instead of earlier days, we used to really run for 100 days or 200 days. Now the same thing is coming with 200 the digital format with 200 or 300, and they're making money in 10-15 days.
Yeah. Yeah.
So similarly,
so that's a good point, Funny, right? That's why I mentioned it really depends on the industry and also the company culture setup, right? So different industries have different benchmarks, right? So what I gave you 6 to 9 months is typically what as an FMCG that we follow, right? So on typical FMCGs, I don't know if Jenny, they follow differently in Unilever, okay, but 6 to 9 months is a good time in FMCG.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Faniji. Madhu, let's try to wind up, and thank you so much to everybody in the audience. It's great to see most of you on the call. Let's wind up in about 7 minutes. So Muthu, you have like 2 minutes. We need to.
I'm pretty much done, Mr. Actually, right? So I just had only one last slide because now everybody is curious. I explained Beyond Beer and blah, blah. So what does it look like? Right? These are some of the products that we have as a portfolio in the last 2 years within China, right? So and all of them are like organically developed, right, or partnerships, right? So some products in RTD, some products in spirits, some products in energy drinks, right? So, and then similar to Jenny, we also have external investments. This is a couple of external investments that we did in the last year, right? So they are local Chinese startups, right? So they are growing very big in China today, right? But all of them are alcoholic products, right? So that we invest externally today, right? Again, so we are in the beginning of the journey, right? So some of the learnings that I shared are evolving as we go along, right? So I'm always happy to share and learn from each other because I'm sure each of you are having similar learnings in your day-to-day experiences.
Wow, that's amazing. We had fantastic learnings. Initially in our poster, we had said we'll have like a recap of 6 major learnings. And now we have 5 because we thought we'll ask the audience. Do you think anybody in the audience who is in the 0 to 1 stage or has been involved has any other learning which is not covered today? You can just unmute and go. Any other new learning besides these? And in the meanwhile, a request to everybody on the call, if you would like to type, what has been one aha insight or a takeaway, an observation from Muthu and Jenny's sharing? You can just type in the chat, what has been your keyword or key takeaway from today's session? You can, I think by mistake, some might send me a direct message. You can just share to all.
Yeah. So Nisha, that's just only one thing to react, right? I'm seeing some of the posts, right? Fireball, Red Bull, right? So looks like a lot of loyal customers for these brands, right? So great to see that. Only one comment I had, that is, if you reflect back to what I just said, right? So because, for example, Fireball is not a brand that was developed by me, right? Or by my team, right? So, but what we did is we went external and signed a partnership with this company to own this brand in China, right? The same way with Red Bull, right? It's not a brand developed by us, right? It's a brand developed by somebody else 30 years ago. So that's why it's important to keep your choices, right? Going back to the same point, right? So you don't have to be stubborn that it has to be done organically by yourself. Can be a partner brand, can be an inorganic brand, right? So that's kind of how we build a portfolio.
Thank you. So everybody, it'll be nice if you would like to reflect and write some keyword or takeaway or aha in the chat window. And in the meanwhile, I'd like to hand over also back for 20 seconds or 30 seconds to both Jenny and Muthu. If you have an ask from the community or there is something you want to offer as for the community, we are all about givers and volunteers for Indian Association Business Council. Jenny, to you first.
Okay, also very inspired by Muthu's session. I think if anybody have some very good startup, especially they are running brand, and they are running those like beauty personal care brands, then very welcome to recommend to me. And also along the way, like we said, we are selectively open Unilever's kind of resources and capability out. So some of them are training, some of them like entrepreneurship training, some of them are like a leadership, especially open innovation, focused leadership kind of training. And also we are open some of the capability like how to run the private domain. Because Unilever, we run big number of that. So we are trying to productize this kind of services out to our partner startup. So if you are interested about those resources we are trying to open into external ecosystem, then you can reach to me later. Yeah. Thank you, Nishta.
Yeah, I'm happy to connect if you're a corporate wanting to, because Xcubator does not only serve internal Unilever, they can also work with other organizations as a service provider or anything else. You can connect with me. I'll pass on her email to you. And Muthu, any ask from the ecosystem or anything you would like to share besides beer QR code?
So first, thank you, Nishta, for organizing, right? So I think it's a time well spent, right? Talking and sharing about some initial learnings, right? So, but always happy to hear from the community, right? Because everybody is going through a similar journey in your careers, in your day-to-day life and challenges, right? So always happy and willing to share learnings, right? And hope this lockdown gets away and we can get a time to meet face-to-face to do this. And second one is specifically, right, so of course, ABI focuses a lot on beverages, right? So be it alcoholic or non-alcoholic beverages, right? So, and this kind of an ecosystem or this, what we are setting up is not only in China, we do this in India and other parts of the world as well, but run by different people. It's just that I run only for China, right? So if you have any of your friends or colleagues who are interested to know more, work with us, please feel free to reach out.
Great. Jenny, one last question for you. If you had, I guess time is over, but before we continue and say thank you, I'd like to make a very special announcement on behalf of the Indian Association team. There are a couple of events coming up. You can check your email, and if you're not on the email list of IA, please reach out to any of us in the Mixer group. One of them is next Saturday, a children's speech competition. So everybody here, most of you I know have kids, some of you have kids here. So 16th April next weekend is a speech competition. If you don't know, please let us know. We will share it again. Please sign up for your kids. Then 23rd April is the AGM for IA. And the next Mixer group we are planning to do is going to be on the supply chain and trade and cross-border topic, which is a very, very hot topic right now, and we'll be posting a survey in the next 30 minutes in the Mixer group. If you can please feedback, help us to help you. And yeah, thank you so much. This is a volunteering work. Anybody who wants to reach out to us where you can assist, where you can take some initiatives forward, we are welcoming that. And that's all. So before we end up, can we all have everybody unmute And everybody unmute. In the real world, like Mukesh said, we'll be having samosas or some Indian snacks or chai or coffee. But can we just make some noise? Let's all make some noise before we hang up. Anything.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.
Well done, guys.
We have some momentum also, right?
Digital profit. Yeah,
Yes,
digital momentum.
yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, Mukesh, I'm sorry, I'm overwhelmed with so many screens.
Cheers, Nishta.
Dr. Rama, who's been our speaker last time, and Muthu and Jenny, we have a amazing memento which would have given the digital in the real world. It's on digital, so I'll give it to you on email. It's been beautifully designed by our communication team. So I think let's close the call now. Everybody is on.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
I'll send you by email.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.